Faster, he barked, gun jammed against my temple, like I wasn't already shaking. See, Daniel's billionaire buddies probably figured a small-town grease monkey like me was an easy mark. They didn't see the ghosts I carry, didn't know my hands knew how to snap a neck quicker than change a tire. One wrong move and boom, wedding night turned bloodbath. Fact is, they were hunting Daniel, but I'm the cage they just rattled. Thing is, even as rage clawed at me, I saw Catherine, his ice queen mother, cornered, terrified. And a strange, quiet thought sparked. She has no clue that my kindness might just be her only salvation. Before I tell you how my wedding day became a battlefield, make sure to hit subscribe and ring that bell. This story will blow your mind with twists you'll never see coming. Trust me, nothing is what it seems. My name is Sarah, and 6 months ago, I was just another grease-stained mechanic in a small town called Millfield. I owned a tiny auto repair shop that barely kept me afloat, but it was mine. Every morning I'd tie my hair back, slip into my work coveralls, and get my hands dirty fixing engines. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me peace after everything I'd been through. That Tuesday in March changed everything. A sleek black Bentley pulled up to my shop, steam pouring from under its hood. Out stepped the most handsome man I'd ever seen. Tall, dark hair, perfectly styled, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. He looked completely out of place in my little garage. "Excuse me, can you help? My car just died," he said, and his voice was smooth like honey. I wiped my hands on my coveralls and walked over. "Let me take a look." One glance under the hood told me everything. "Your radiator hose burst. It's an easy fix, but you'll need to wait about an hour." He seemed surprised that I knew what I was talking about. Most people assumed because I was a woman I was just pretending to understand cars. But this man, Daniel Harrison, as I later learned, actually listened to me explain what went wrong and how I'd fix it. While I worked, we talked. He was fascinated by my knowledge of engines, asking questions about different car models and repairs. Most wealthy people treated me like I was invisible, but Daniel seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. When I finished the repair, he insisted on paying double my usual rate. "Would you maybe like to get coffee sometime?" he asked as he was leaving. I almost laughed. This man in his expensive suit asking out a mechanic, but something in his eyes seemed sincere. Sure, I heard myself say that coffee turned into dinner, which turned into long walks and late-night conversations. Daniel told me he was the CEO of Harrison Tech, a billion-dollar company his father had built. I told him about my shop, my love for fixing things, and my quiet life in Millfield. What I didn't tell him was why I'd chosen such a simple life or what I was running from. 3 months later, he proposed, not with some grand romantic gesture, but during a quiet evening at my tiny apartment above the shop. "Sarah, I've never met anyone like you," he said, getting down on one knee. "You're real, you're genuine, and you make me feel like myself instead of just my bank account. Will you marry me?" I said yes, but part of me wondered if I was making a huge mistake. Daniel knew Sarah, the mechanic, but he didn't know who I really was before I became that person. The moment I met Daniel's family, I knew I was in trouble. His mother, Catherine Harrison, was everything I expected from a billionaire's wife, perfectly styled, dripping in diamonds, and looking at me like I was something unpleasant she'd stepped in. "So, you're the mechanic," she said when Daniel introduced us at their mansion. "Not nice to meet you or welcome to the family. Just the mechanic, like it was some kind of disease." Daniel's sister Amanda was even worse. 25 years old, never worked a day in her life, and made it her mission to remind me that I didn't belong. "It's so interesting that Daniel is marrying someone so different," she said with a fake smile. "I mean, we've always wondered what kind of woman could catch his attention away from all those successful businesswomen and socialites he used to date. Their father, William, was more subtle, but just as cold. He'd nod politely when I spoke, but never really engage. I could see him calculating in his head, how much damage would this marriage do to the family reputation? The worst part was the comments they thought I couldn't hear. During our engagement dinner, I went to the bathroom and heard Catherine talking to her friends. I don't know what Daniel sees in her. She's so common. And those hands, you can tell she works with them. "What will people think?" Amanda chimed in. "She's obviously after his money. I mean, What else could it be? She probably saw dollar signs the moment he walked into her little garage. Even the wedding planning was a nightmare. Catherine took over everything, making decisions without asking me. "Trust me, dear. I know what's appropriate for our family," she'd say whenever I suggested something. She picked the venue, their family estate, the flowers, the menu, even tried to choose my dress. The only thing I put my foot down on was the guest list. I insisted on inviting my parents and my brother Jake, even though Catherine made it clear she thought they would embarrass the family. My parents, good, hard-working people who raised me with love and values, felt so uncomfortable around Daniel's family that they barely spoke at any of the pre-wedding events. My brother Jake was different, though. He'd served in the military with me years ago, and he was the only one who knew my real story. The night before the wedding, he pulled me aside. "Sarah, are you sure about this? These people don't deserve you. They have no idea who you really are or what you've done for this country." "That's the point, Jake." I told him I don't want to be that person anymore. I just want to be Sarah, the mechanic who fell in love with a good man. But Jake looked worried. "I've been doing some research on Daniel's business. There are people who want to hurt him, Sarah. His company has made some powerful enemies. I think you might need to be that person again soon." I brushed off his concerns. After everything I'd been through, all I wanted was a peaceful life. I thought my fighting days were over. The morning of my wedding dawned perfect and clear. I woke up in the guest house on the Harrison estate, sunlight streaming through expensive curtains. For a moment, I forgot about all the family drama and just felt pure happiness. Today, I was marrying the man I loved. My mother helped me into my wedding dress, a stunning white gown that even Catherine had to admit looked beautiful on me. It was elegant and simple, nothing too flashy, which was exactly my style. My mom's eyes filled with tears as she fastened the buttons. "You look like a princess, honey," she whispered. "Your father and I are so proud of you." My bridesmaids, my cousin Lucy, and two friends from back home were getting ready around me. They kept commenting on how beautiful everything was, how fancy the estate looked, how lucky I was, and I felt lucky. Despite Daniel's family's coldness, I was about to marry a man who loved me for exactly who I was. The ceremony was set for 4 acts in the mansion's back gardens. Catherine had hired the best wedding planners in the state, and I had to admit, everything looked like something out of a fairy tale. White roses everywhere, hundreds of chairs arranged in perfect rows, an arch covered in flowers where Daniel and I would say our vows. When it came time to walk down the aisle, my heart was pounding with joy. My father took my arm, looking handsome in his rented tuxedo, and whispered, "You ready for this, sweetheart?" I nodded, and then the music started. The doors to the garden opened, and I saw Daniel waiting for me at the altar. He looked incredibly handsome in his black tuxedo, and when our eyes met, his face lit up with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. The walk down that aisle felt like floating. There were nearly 200 guests, politicians, business leaders, socialites, all standing and watching as the mechanic married the billionaire. I could see Catherine in the front row looking elegant, but still somehow disapproving. Amanda sat next to her, whispering something to her friend. But none of that mattered when I reached Daniel. He took my hands and squeezed them, and for that moment, we were the only 2 people in the world. "You look absolutely beautiful," he whispered. The ceremony was perfect. We said our vows. Daniel promising to love me exactly as I was. Me promising to stand by him through anything. When he slipped the ring on my finger, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. And when the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," and Daniel's lips met mine, I forgot about every cruel comment, every disapproving look, every moment of doubt. We were married. Against all odds, the small-town mechanic had married the billionaire, and it felt like a fairy tale. The cocktail hour after the ceremony was in full swing on the mansion's back terrace. Everyone seemed to be having a wonderful time. The champagne was flowing, the band was playing soft jazz, and the sunset painted everything in golden light. I was finally starting to relax and enjoy myself. Daniel and I were making our rounds, thanking guests for coming, when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. There were waiters circulating with trays of champagne, but something was off about a few of them. Their posture was wrong, too rigid, too alert. Their eyes weren't focused on serving drinks. They were scanning the crowd like they were looking for something. I'd seen that look before, It was the look of soldiers on a mission. I grabbed Daniel's arm. "Something's wrong," I whispered. He looked at me with concern. "What do you mean?" "Those waiters by the back door. They don't belong here." Daniel glanced over and then back at me with a gentle smile. "Honey, you're just nervous. It's normal to feel overwhelmed. This is a big day." I wanted to trust his judgment, but every instinct I'd developed during my military years was screaming danger. I started looking for exits, counting how many guests were between us and safety, noting where the security guards were positioned. That's when I saw my brother Jake across the terrace. He was talking to one of the real waiters, but his eyes kept darting around the crowd. He looked just as tense as I felt. Our eyes met across the crowd, and I could see he felt it too. Then everything happened at once. The lights around the terrace suddenly cut out, plunging us into near darkness, except for the string lights in the trees. Someone screamed, glass shattered, and then I heard the voice that changed everything. "Everyone get down on the ground now." 6 men in dark clothing with masks covering their faces had appeared from different directions surrounding the terrace. They all carried guns and they moved with the precision of a trained unit. These weren't random robbers. This was a coordinated attack. Guests began screaming and dropping to the ground. I saw Catherine faint dead away, crumpling to the terrace in her expensive dress. Amanda was sobbing hysterically, clutching at some businessman's arm. Daniel's father, William, stood frozen, his face pale with shock. "This is not a robbery," the leader announced, his voice carrying across the terrace. "We want everyone's jewelry, wallets, and phones. Move quickly and no one gets hurt." But I knew better. I'd seen operations like this before. This wasn't about jewelry or money. When professional soldiers disguised as robbers target a specific event like this, they're after something much bigger. Daniel pulled me close, trying to shield me with his body. "It's okay, Sarah. Just do what they say and we'll be fine." But I was already calculating 6 men, probably more we couldn't see. Multiple exit points blocked, innocent civilians everywhere who could get caught in crossfire. And Daniel, my husband of less than an hour, had no idea what was really happening. One of the men approached us, his gun pointed in our direction. "You pretty lady in the wedding dress, take off that jewelry, all of it." I started to comply, removing my earrings and necklace with shaking hands. Daniel was fumbling with his watch, trying to get it off quickly. The gunman grew impatient. "Faster!" he shouted, grabbing my arm roughly. The force of his grip tore the delicate fabric of my dress sleeve, ripping it halfway off my shoulder. And that's when something inside me snapped. The moment that gunman's hands touched me, 12 years of military training kicked in like muscle memory. The fear, the confusion, the helplessness, it all disappeared, replaced by cold, calculating focus. I'd been Staff Sergeant Sarah Mitchell, U.S. Army Special Forces, before I became Sarah, the mechanic. I'd served 3 tours in Afghanistan, led rescue missions behind enemy lines, and saved more lives than I could count. I'd retired after watching too many good soldiers die, seeking peace in my little garage. But peace was over. The gunman who grabbed me made a fatal mistake. He expected a terrified bride, not a trained killer. In one fluid movement, I grabbed his wrist with both hands, twisted sharply to break his grip, and drove my knee into his solar plexus. As he doubled over, gasping for air, I relieved him of his weapon and brought the butt of the gun down on the back of his head. He crumpled to the ground unconscious. The entire exchange took maybe 3 seconds. The other 5 gunmen froze in shock. Their partner had just been taken down by a woman in a wedding dress. Sarah. Daniel stared at me like he'd never seen me before, which in a way he hadn't, but I didn't have time to explain. The other gunmen were recovering from their surprise and raising their weapons. I shoved Daniel behind an overturned table and shouted to the crowd, "Everyone stay down and crawl toward the house. Move now." I could hear Catherine somewhere behind me, wailing, oh my God, what is happening?" 2 gunmen were advancing on my position. Using the unconscious man's weapon, I provided covering fire while the guests scrambled for safety. The beautiful wedding reception was transforming into a war zone. Flower arrangements exploding under gunfire, champagne glasses shattering, elegant tables splintering as bullets tore through them. My brother Jake appeared at my side, having disarmed one of the other gunmen. I told you this was going to happen, he shouted over the noise. Save the I told you so for later, I replied, reloading the weapon with practiced efficiency. How many more? I count 3 still active, but there might be more inside the house. I did a quick tactical assessment. The remaining gunmen had taken defensive positions behind the bar and some large planters. They were trying to control the exits to prevent anyone from escaping or calling for help. This confirmed my suspicion. They weren't here for a simple robbery. They're after Daniel. I told Jake, this whole thing is a targeted hit. Daniel, still crouched behind the table, grabbed my arm. Sarah, what are you doing? Who are you? There wasn't time for explanations. One of the gunmen was flanking around the left side, trying to get behind our position. I could see Amanda and William huddled together near the house, both of them staring at me in complete shock. The woman they dismissed as a lowly mechanic was systematically dismantling a professional hit squad. Daniel, I need you to get your family and move toward the house. I instructed, stay low, stay together, and don't look back. I'm not leaving you. You're not leaving me. I'm protecting you. There's a difference. I moved from our cover, using the overturned tables and scattered chairs as concealment. The gunman on the left didn't see me coming until it was too late. A quick take-on, and he was unconscious next to his partner. That left 2 gunmen behind the bar. They'd stopped shooting, probably trying to figure out how their simple operation had gone so wrong. I could use that confusion to my advantage. What happened next would change everything between me and Daniel's family forever. Catherine Harrison, the woman who had spent months treating me like garbage, was cowering behind a decorative fountain with her daughter. Both of them were crying, makeup streaking down their faces, their expensive dresses torn and dirty. When one of the remaining gunmen spotted them and started moving in their direction, I didn't hesitate. I sprinted across the open terrace, drawing fire away from them and toward myself. The gunmen's shots went wide as I dove behind the dessert table, our beautiful 3-tier wedding cake exploding in a shower of frosting and flowers. Catherine, Amanda, move toward the house now, I shouted. But Catherine was frozen with terror, unable to move. The gunman was getting closer, his weapon trained on her. In that moment, I realized that despite everything they'd put me through, I couldn't let them die. They were Daniel's family, which made them my family now. I flanked around the fountain from the opposite side. The gunman didn't see me until I was right behind him. One precise strike to his neck, and he dropped like a stone. Catherine stared up at me from the ground, her perfectly styled hair disheveled, her face stray with tears and dirt. You saved us, she whispered. Can you walk? I asked, helping her to her feet. She nodded, still in shock. Amanda was clinging to my arm like a lifeline. This woman who had called me a gold digger just hours earlier. I'm sorry, Amanda sobbed. I'm so sorry for everything I said about you. We'll talk later, I told her. Right now, we need to get you safe. There was still 1 gunman left, and he'd retreated into the house. Jake had secured the perimeter and was helping the remaining guests evacuate, but we couldn't leave while there was still a threat inside. Daniel appeared at my side, looking at me with a mixture of awe and confusion. Sarah, I don't understand what's happening. How do you know how to do all this? I took his hands, my wedding dress torn and stained with grass and dirt, my hair falling out of its elegant updo. Daniel, before I was a mechanic, I was a soldier. Special forces. I've been trying to leave that life behind, but it looks like that life just caught up with us. His eyes widened. You were in the military for 12 years, 3 tours in Afghanistan. I retired as a staff sergeant and moved to Millfield because I wanted peace. I wanted to fix engines instead of other things. William Harrison, who had barely spoken to me during our entire engagement, stepped forward. You mean you've been trained for this? For combat? Yes, sir. He looked at his unconscious attackers scattered around the terrace, then back at me. You saved our lives. I saved my family's lives, I corrected. The sirens were getting closer, but we still had to secure the house. Jake and I moved through the mansion methodically, clearing each room. We found the last gunman trying to escape through a back window. He surrendered without a fight when he realized he was alone and outgunned. By the time the police and FBI arrived, we had all 6 attackers secured and zip-tied with decorative ribbon from the wedding decorations. The agents were stunned to find that the victims had already handled the situation. "Ma'am, can you explain what happened here?" the lead FBI agent asked me. I looked down at my ruined wedding dress, then at Daniel and his family, who were all staring at me like they were seeing me for the first time. "Some men tried to hurt my family," I said simply. "I didn't let them." The investigation that followed revealed everything. The attackers weren't random criminals. They were hired mercenaries sent by Harrison Tech's biggest competitor. Daniel's company had developed new technology that would revolutionize data security, and rather than compete fairly, their rivals had decided to eliminate Daniel permanently. The FBI agent who debriefed us, Agent Martinez, knew my military record. "Staff Sergeant Mitchell," he said, shaking my hand. "I've read about some of your missions overseas. Your country owes you a debt of gratitude." Daniel's jaw dropped. "Staff Sergeant, your wife is a decorated war hero, Mr. Harrison," Agent Martinez explained. "She led rescue operations that saved hundreds of lives. The Army didn't want to let her go when she retired." After the agents left and the crime scene was processed, Daniel's family and I sat in the mansion's living room. The silence was deafening. Catherine kept staring at me like she couldn't reconcile the woman who had saved her life with the mechanic she'd been insulting for months. Finally, William spoke up. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. We all do. We judged you based on your profession, your background, things that don't matter at all. We never bothered to really know who you were." Catherine was crying again, but these were different tears than before. "You could have let them. You could have just protected Daniel and left us after everything we said about you. Everything we did." "You're Daniel's family," I said. "That makes you my family. Family protects family no matter what." Amanda, who had been quiet since the attack, finally spoke. "I called you a gold digger. I said you weren't good enough for my brother, but you're the strongest, bravest person I've ever met. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway." I looked at this young woman who had made my life miserable for months, now humbled and ashamed. "Amanda, we all say things we don't mean when we're scared or threatened. You were scared of change, of someone new joining your family. I understand that." Daniel took my hand. "Why didn't you tell me about your military service? About what you'd done?" I sighed, suddenly feeling exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off and the full weight of the day was settling on my shoulders. Because I wanted to be someone different. I wanted to be Sarah, the mechanic who fell in love with Daniel, the man, not Daniel, the billionaire CEO who married Staff Sergeant Mitchell, the war hero. I wanted our love to be simple and real, not complicated by what I used to be. "But this is who you are," he said. "All of it. The mechanic, the soldier, the woman who saved my family. I fell in love with your strength and your kindness. And now I understand where they came from." Catherine stood up and walked over to me. For a moment I thought she might still be angry, but instead she pulled me into a hug. "Welcome to the family, Sarah," she whispered. "The real family. I'm sorry it took almost losing you to realize what we had." The weeks following our eventful wedding were strange and wonderful. The media had gotten hold of the story. "Manic Bride Defeats Wedding Crashers" was the headline that followed us everywhere. But more importantly, my relationship with Daniel's family had completely transformed. Catherine started visiting my garage regularly, genuinely interested in learning about car repair. "I've never actually understood how anything mechanical worked," she admitted one afternoon while I was replacing brake pads on her Mercedes. "I just assumed someone else would always handle it for me." Amanda asked if she could volunteer at a veteran support center I'd started donating to. "I want to do something meaningful with my life," she told me. "Something that would make you proud to call me your sister-in-law." William, the man who had barely acknowledged my existence, became one of my strongest supporters. He used his business connections to help other veterans find jobs and housing. "You opened my eyes to what real service looks like," he said. But the biggest change was with Daniel. Learning about my past didn't drive us apart. It brought us closer together. He started asking me about my experiences overseas, not out of morbid curiosity, but because he wanted to understand every part of the woman he'd married. "I feel like I know you better now," he told me one evening as we sat on the porch of our new house, a compromise between his mansion and my tiny apartment. "I always wondered where your strength came from, why you seem so calm in difficult situations. Now it makes sense. Are you disappointed? I asked. That I'm not just the simple mechanic you thought you were marrying. He laughed and pulled me closer. Sarah, you are the most complex, fascinating, incredible woman I've ever met. You're a war hero who chose to find peace in fixing engines. You're strong enough to take down armed men, but gentle enough to forgive people who treated you badly. You're exactly who I thought I was marrying, and so much more. The funny thing is my military background actually helped with Daniel's business. Harrison Tech started developing security systems for military contractors, and my experience proved invaluable. I went from being seen as an outsider who didn't belong in Daniel's world to being recognized as someone who brought unique value to it. Jake, who had been so worried about the wedding, became a regular fixture at family dinners. I'm glad you married him, he told me one Sunday afternoon, not because he's rich, but because he loves all of you, not just the parts he thought he understood. 6 months later, Daniel and I renewed our vows in a small private ceremony, just family and close friends. This time there were no armed gunmen, no family drama, no class conflicts, just love, understanding, and the promise of a future built on truth instead of assumptions. As I stood there in a simple white dress, holding Daniel's hands, while our families, our real families, who knew and accepted us completely, watched with genuine joy, I realized something important. I'd spent so long trying to escape who I used to be that I forgot the most important lesson the military had taught me. You don't have to choose between strength and peace. You can be both warrior and healer, protector and lover, complex and simple all at the same time. Sometimes the people who seem the most ordinary are hiding the most extraordinary stories. Sometimes the person you think you know best is full of surprises. And sometimes it takes a crisis to show people who you really are, and to discover that being truly known is better than being safely misunderstood. My name is Sarah Harrison, and I'm a mechanic who fell in love with a billionaire. I'm also a decorated war veteran who saved her new family's lives on her wedding day. Both of those things are true, and both of them make me who I am. The woman who can fix your car and protect your life, who chose love over fear, and who learned that the right family will love you, not despite your secrets, but because of your strength. That's my story, and I'm proud of every part of it. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have revealed your past to Daniel before the wedding? Or do you understand why I kept it secret? Have you ever been surprised by discovering someone's hidden strengths? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked Daniel's family, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Hit that bell icon, because trust me, the stories I share will leave you speechless. Until next time, remember that everyone you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about.